chronic stress, you may want to chart a new, less question-filled path. A new, less question-filled path. To shift your thinking from malicious to Hi everyone, this is 돌콩. 여러분 안녕하십니까? 돌돌콩입니다. Back in January, I shared a video about my English study plan for 2022, and in that video, I declared that I will memorize one paragraph in English per day, and I'll spend 20 minutes on that. It's been 100 days since I started it. It's been 6 months, but of course there are weekends and there are vacations, so it took a little bit longer. But anyway, today was a day 100, and yeah, I do have 100 paragraphs in my hand. So today I am going to share what I have learned about this method and how I'm going to improve it from here. Here is a brief description of what I have done. First, I will find one paragraph from a book or a magazine that I want to memorize. Then 2, I will write it down on a flashcard like this. Then 3, I will read it over and over until I can memorize it entirely. 4, I will do it comprehensively on a weekly basis. I memorize one new paragraph a day, but I will also revisit 4 paragraphs that I memorized for the last 4 days. I spent 20 minutes, no more than 20 minutes on that. This method is really good if you are trying to learn new and interesting expressions. So I brought the paragraphs from mostly books and sometimes magazines and newspapers, and those are written English. And what's different about that from spoken English is writers intentionally try to avoid using the same word in one paragraph over and over. They actually make intentional effort to paraphrase or use synonyms. You can kind of absorb the product of that effort, right? For example, let's see, desire. That is my go-to word whenever I want to say wanting something very desperately, right? And then I was memorizing one paragraph from this book, Big Feelings. And a paragraph that I memorized goes like this. Let me see if I can remember part of it. The next time you desperately covet for what someone else has, swap out the question, why don't I have it, with do I have enough? Chances are not having it chances are you can survive without whatever it is you pine for, and not having it has no impact on you as a person. Okay, that was not perfect, but I'm happy with that. I learned this expression covet and pine for the first time, and then I repeatedly read this sentence over and over to memorize it. So those 2 expressions are in my head and actually are ready to be used. I have many experiences like this for the last 100 days that I did this. Actually, I remember one academic paper written by Dr. Ann Cunningham at Berkeley, and there is like this specific table that I remember. The number of rare expressions that books or newspaper, anyway, written English contain is a lot more than the number of expressions that are used in TV shows, for example, or movie. Let me see if I can find the table and include it in the video when I add it. 2, I think it helped me think in English a little more. When I choose which paragraph to memorize, of course it was important for the paragraph to have a lot of expressions and words that I don't know, but also I will memorize this paragraph, so I want this paragraph to be something that I want to recall or something that I want to remember for a long time, right? I wanted to use it as a good reference in my real life too, because anyway, it will be in my brain, right? Some paragraphs that I memorize, I kind of think about that a lot in everyday life when I work or when I communicate with people. For example, there is a paragraph that I brought from this Atlas of the Heart book about perfectionism. Of course, it's a Dr. Brené Brown's book. So paragraph goes like this. Let me see. Perfectionism is self-destructive simply because there is no such thing as perfection. Perfection is unattainable goal. Additionally, perfectionism is about perception. We want to be perceived as perfect. Again, this is unattainable. So there is a paragraph like that. I think that was not perfect, but anyway, I'm not one of those like fancy perfectionists, but I do sometimes have unhealthy perfectionism, and that really hinders the progress a lot. And I think about these paragraphs a lot. It really helps, and I think about that. I kind of try to dissect the problem that I'm facing, and it really helps me think through and apply whatever I memorized. It is really good to learn English by memorizing an article, but it's also very good to utilize what you memorize in your everyday life. And 3, of course, it really helps improve flow of speaking. I expected this, I think, when I started this method, but it turned out to be really true. Of course, you have to read the same sentence over and over. You get used to, I think, speaking out some long sentences by doing that. I met a lot of people saying like, oh, I want to speak in a little bit longer sentence. My sentences are always very short. If you have that kind of grief, try this method. Maybe it helps. And 4, it really helped me improve my pronunciation. I didn't expect this, but yeah, it was really true. One example that comes to my mind immediately is how to pronounce performance. I had used this word a lot, so many times, and I think I even have that word on my t-shirts. So when I use this word in Korean context, I'll say performance, right? And that's the pronunciation that I am familiar with. So when I say it in English context, I try, but it's still a little bit like Korean performance, right? Performance. Then I was memorizing one paragraph I brought from Dr. Adam Grant's book, Think Again. And there was a sentence that goes something like this. Focusing on result might be good for short-term performance, but it can be an obstacle to long-term learning. So I was trying to memorize this sentence, and I had to read it over and over, and I was listening to how I speak, and then I realized that I pronounced this word performance, and it was a little bit like awkward. I kind of knew that I could improve a little bit. Rather than saying performance, I could say performance, right? So I learned that by reading the same sentence over and over. Now I can pronounce it as a performance. Performance. Focusing on results might be good for short-term performance, but it can be an obstacle to long-term learning. Performance. Little difference, but there are many words like this, so combining all, I think it makes a huge difference. Lastly, to do this method, you will have to read in English a lot because it takes time and it takes many paragraphs to find one paragraph that you really want to memorize and that contains a lot of good expressions. Before we move on to the next topic, let me introduce today's sponsor, Cambly. I mentioned Cambly many times in my previous videos because I've been using Cambly for so many years now, like at least 3 now. And honestly, I attribute a big proportion of any improvement that I have made with my English to my tutors. Whatever you learn, I think getting feedback is essential for delivery practice and efficient learning. You will be surprised how much effort and time you could save by getting good feedback immediately. And my tutors have done wonderful, amazing jobs with that. With me, so many times they are super patient and also friendly. And trust me, it is not so easy always to find the good tutor that you can work well with and you feel comfortable with. To do that, you want to try different tutors and you want to explore different options. I've been using Cambly because Cambly has so many tutors available, so you can try as many tutors as many times as you want until you find your one. And once you find the one, And though once, if you are fortunate enough, you'll be surprised to see how quickly it can take you your English to the next level and how much energy and time you can save. Because it often takes a long time to realize what kind of mistake you repeatedly make and how to fix it and how to work on it. You could do it by yourself, I think, but with tutors, you can save a lot of time and energy. For me, having a tutor was an eye-opening experience because they are friendly and they are not intimidating, but they are very good at pointing out my mistakes that I didn't even know that I was making and explain very patiently how I can work on it. Once you find your tutor becomes your teacher, friend, cheerleader, confidence booster. Tutors mean so many things to me. So if you haven't been able to find your own tutor, go try out Cambly, try many different tutors, explore your options, and hopefully you can find the one that you can feel comfortable with and you can study English in a fun way with. How do I want to improve this method from here? One thing that I felt was I forget a lot. When I revisit, for example, the articles that I memorized like 20 days ago, most of the parts are gone and it's really sad. One thing that I'm trying right now is I still do this comprehensively on a weekly basis, but I randomly choose one flashcard from my deck like this, a paragraph that I memorized on February 3rd. And then I kind of try to recall how much do I still remember, and most of the time not a lot is left in my head, but that's fine. I start memorizing again and it comes back really quickly because this is a paragraph that I memorized before once, right? Hopefully that helps me kind of remember this paragraph for a little bit longer time. So this is one thing that I'm trying. I really like this method because it's a 20 intense minutes, but it doesn't take long in the end. And I can apply what I memorize in my life. And it's very effective, I think, in terms of improving my English. So I want to keep this method from here, but I still want to improve it. As one paragraph that I memorized from Dr. Adam Grant's book, Think Again, says, let me see if I can recall this. In performance cultures, people often become attached to best routines. The risk is that when we declared a routine best, it becomes frozen in time. We preach about its virtues and stop questioning its vices and no longer curious about where it's imperfect and where it could improve. Beautiful paragraph to memorize, isn't it? And it's really good to kind of, have that wisdom in my mind. It gives me a lot of peace. But anyway, as that paragraph says, I'm really interested in improving this. I don't want to declare what I'm doing as the best practice, but I would still want to keep improving it and make this study method really work for me. I think it's effective. It has a lot of potential. English is my nemesis and my lifetime homework, as I shared a lot of times in my previous videos. And it still is. But one thing that I told myself as starting 2022 was, let's not complain before making a little more effort, because I was not studying. I just complained. So resuming my English study feels good enough, but also it feels even better when I discover that it's improving. When your effort pays off, like, that's the best feeling, right? Hopefully this video was helpful for those of you who are thinking about studying English and thinking about trying this method actually. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.